My dad grew up in Rockland. How do you pronounce it? Rock something. With his parents. His brother divorced his dad, and he stuck with his dad. And he had a stepmother. He saw his stepmother more so than his mother. I have to get home after work, and he's usually tired, so we usually go talk. Sometimes when he's energized, he'll talk about random stuff, talk about stuff in the old days, funny stories. My dad would work hard as hell at a gas station right after school. He always comments on it. My dad does a lot of interviews for his work. He talks in like a corporate way on camera. My dad grew up during a time when teachers, if you got a question wrong, they could like push a bookshelf on you. He still remembers working hard as hell for like cheap labor. He called it that. He said he could probably sue the school. Yeah, it was souvenirs from his Coast Guard, all these badges, all the stuff. And he's staying for 21 years. He must have gotten a lot of stuff. There's like boxes of ammo that he fired off from a ship and he kept. He has all these like steering wheels. It's all like very old fashioned. Like asked my dad questions from back then. His history is always repeating itself. Maybe like that was born 69 to like 50 years ago. Probably was mostly the same. You see it repeating itself. All the political violence happening in the 60s. It's probably repeating now. My dad never grew up with the internet. They always had a hotline phone and dial-up would always crash on you if you ever used the phone and played video games. He never really played video games when he was growing up. He's always been outside. Alright, in everyday life for you, with all the crazy stuff that happened in when you were born in '69 to the '70s, probably civil rights movement, then you have the after effect of the Vietnam that goes into the information age. How do you think it affected you as a kid in a town in Maine?
So as you know, I'm from the great state of Maine, and but let me step back for a moment and talk about I had family members that had fought in the Vietnam War. That went. My father was supposed to go. He was going to be a Marine in like 66, 67. And he actually fell off the roof of my grandmother's house and broke his back, and he didn't end up going. So because he didn't go, I'm here today. So you never know what could have happened.
So do you think these national events happening really affected your town of Rockland?
Yeah.
Rockland, Maine. Anything big? Do you remember like these big events happening and then nothing happening for you? But what big event do you think happened when you were a kid really affected your Rockland,
Well,
Maine?
I can only go by what I felt, but a big event that happened that didn't really affect the town, but it affected the people of the town, which I guess is the same. When Ronald Reagan got shot,
When was that? It was. I think it was in the Southern States.
It was in the 80s. It was Washington D.C., I believe, and one of his bodyguards, Brady, he actually got shot in the head, and they actually had a gun law called the Brady Bill, that was passed during that time. But I think a lot of people remember when that happened. It was pretty scary, and it kind of a lot of people really liked Ronald Reagan. He was an actor, and he was a real good president. He was fair.
So do you think that's one of the reasons why you signed up for the military? Because you saw no future in Rockland?
I saw no future in myself. As in, like I mentioned, my family, my parents had separated. My dad raised us. Then he got remarried, and we didn't have a ton of money. That was always an issue growing up. So I knew that I wasn't going to college. I didn't really have the grades for college, and I really enjoyed mechanical things and working on vehicles and things like that. So yeah, that was the route I took, and I made that decision early, which is you don't see that all the time.
How do you do to support your family during your financial issues? And then how are your teachers now compared to here?
Yeah, this is great. So I had worked as soon as I could work. Started with newspaper routes, the Sunday ones, really a lot of heavy papers.
How old do you think you were?
I was probably 12. Trying to make a little bit of money. And then my Uncle Daryl, called me up one day and said, "Hey, how would you like to go to work at Hendricks Tire?" A friend of mine. And I was like, absolutely. I was 15. And actually, I was 14. 14 and a half, you could get a worker's permit.
Was this under the table?
No, no. It was student wage. It was $2.20 an hour.
So this mostly ties into the Mexican War with its problem with the cartel, with their appeasement role. How do you think that affected them? Affected the border issue?
I think for a long time, like under Ronald Reagan, which you probably don't even know anything about, he was going after the cartel down there and the drug problem and the that was killing people here in America with cocaine, and that was big back then in the 80s. But I think that it definitely tightened things up. They gave us the tools. We were able to work with other parts of the government, as in like the CIA. Would work with us. We had a two-way communication. We could work with the Navy. We could work with the FBI. We did all that. So it really made open communications and sharing of information. Yes.
You got in service?
Which one of the things is that you always try to do your best. So when I came out in 2008, it was a tough time for everybody. It was the recession that was going on. People weren't able. They were losing money in the stock market. They weren't able to pay their credit card bills, and things really got rough for a lot of people. But on a good note is because of a good friend of mine, I was able to get a job at National Grid, working for the LNG facility in South Yarmouth. So then what I did is I worked as an LNG operator for 12 years. And then I had an opportunity to become a supervisor of the South Yarmouth Wareham LNG facility. And then now I'm the LNG lead for Massachusetts South, which is South Yarmouth, Wareham, Dorchester, which is the Rainbow Tank up in Boston, and the Lynn LNG plant. I help manage those.
All right, that's all the question I had. Thank you so much for answering all of them.
Yeah, no worries. The things you do for your kids.